Okay, well, I gotta say, before we're gonna do all the housekeeping stuff, but
great.
I just gotta get this off my chest. The last episode, I just boned it. I mean,
In a good
there was
way.
a lot. Yeah, well, no, I was just took on too much.
No, I loved it.
I killed our show. I
know
killed
what?
our momentum.
I've watched
They're like,
that.
oh my god, that guy's doing all these people.
I've watched that a few times,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it. I love the fact that you had a make out club at work, and the fact that you drove to Portland and didn't have a roommate, and the roommate you got gouged his eyes out. I mean, like the whole thing was.
It was just a lot. I think, but the good news is watching. I'm like, wow, that is so much that you have the content to make a lot. You don't have to shove 3 insane years spanning a decade into one podcast.
But it was all part of the larger story you were telling. And I still want to find out about the thing you teased about your first radio job and how crazy that was. And there was like a whole story to that.
Yeah, I remember teasing something.
But, you totally pulled a Shannon because, you're used to having to like pause me and being like, okay, let's recap and like stop here, because I would just have so many rabbit holes within my stuff. But no, yours was great. And I think you're just being too hard on yourself.
I think we get to test that today as we are back. This is Extracted, Shannon Boyles episode 3, right?
Yeah,
Season 2.
Season 2, episode 3.
In the Bang Bang Bunker. I apologize for the mess as I'm pulling stuff out of one room to move a child into that room, and it's just taking a long time. Actually, he's already moved in, and he has nowhere to put things because it's full of old books like When a Feller Needs a Friend, which I put there to distract you from the rest of the mess. And that's the thing. Both of my parents died pretty young, and I got all this stuff. I have pictures of people I don't know. And I'm just gradually.
Look at, you know what though?
Look at that.
I love the fact that these two people
this
made you.
So that's my mom, 18 and pregnant. My dad, 17. The wisdom of Lyons High School, kicking him out because he had gotten a girl pregnant. Yeah, getting a very quick impromptu wedding to make it the holy matrimony that these supposed Christo-fascists are required. But anyway, so my grandma would eventually go back to the school board and beg them to let him back into school.
Oh.
And they would let him back into school.
They did.
And my brother would actually be at his high school graduation. And the story is that they got off to a bad start because my mom was holding my brother as he's walking down the graduation aisle. And he'd poke my brother in the tummy as he walked by. And he screamed through the whole ceremony. So that's the story.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really sweet picture. And like I said, your dad's always been a handsome guy.
Well, so. Yeah, and what is your 17 or 18-year-old doing? Those people would eventually move into a trailer on Elk Ridge and with absolutely no running water, no electricity, start a lumber business and raise children. And just when they thought they had it all, a bear would tear the door off their trailer and eat everything.
No
and they'd
way.
have to live off trout for weeks. Yes.
Okay, that's another tease. Like,
well,
okay.
It's your show. But what am I doing?
This is the Moth show. But we need to put on a list. Like now, your 2 stories that you've told that I can't wait to hear.
Okay. Well, enough about me. I got into the junk, and what do? You emerge with more.
Housekeeping.
So housekeeping, we're in the Bang Bang Bunker, and there's something different. I don't know what I've done differently here. It's probably just the mess. And it's been a while since we've done this. In the Bang Bang Bunker, thus titled, because this time of year there's fireworks, and this is where Cho-Cho, and Bogey now, is scared of bangs. So they hide in the Bang Bang Bunker during the Bang Bang season. And this is my friend Shannon Boyles. I am Jared Iwi. This is Extracted, and it's your turn. And let's tease before we get there, because we have stuff to talk about before we get there. What are you going to cover today in your story?
Well, I was hoping that we could talk about where we left off last time and doing the Moth June Story Slam. And just the fact that, being...
But are we going to get back to Boyles?
Back to Boyles.
Oh, we get, when we last left off, man, you had Shawshanked to the legal torment.
I did.
People you thought you could trust, you could not.
That's right.
That you were being pursued by the Nazis of the home or
the
HOA, wherever the hell that is. And things were just almost seemed to be too much for one person.
Yeah, they were pretty insurmountable.
Yeah.
But...
She's mounted. She's mounted.
I wish I was mounted. But, okay, so we'll tease that. But, yeah, there's a lot going on. We got our birthday party coming up in a week.
Oh, my God.
2 days.
I couldn't believe how soon that is. Last night I just started inviting people.
Good.
Qualified people. I'm not going to drag people to your home.
No, I'm sure that's going to be great. And I've even had some of your friends reach out and let me know that they're coming, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Good.
There's that. But yeah, where we left off, I think on your Jared Iwe season 2, episode 2 was we were going to be leading up to the fact that we were doing the Moth Story Slam for June. And I had been in Texas for work training and had told myself every night I was going to practice in my hotel room. And did that ever happen? No.
No.
So I came back to Denver sheepishly and was embarrassed to tell you, Jared, I didn't practice, but I think I'm ready. I've got my bullet points that you helped me kind of drill down into. And I showed up and you and your beautiful wife were there, sold out. And you walked me up to the front of the stage and said, fill out this form. And I told the lady collecting the forms, please put mine on the bottom. And she laughed and said that there were 12 people who filled out the forms and 10 slots. And so my chances were pretty good.
And this pause a second. This is the Moth Grand Slam Story
Not the Grand Slam.
Or the Moth Slam.
Moth Story Slam.
Story Slam.
June.
In June. And this is something I've been doing. And then, with very little notice, got you dragged into it. It's a big deal. It is a really big deal. They're constantly selling out, people clamoring for tickets. So yeah, you filled out the form.
I did. And because the theme was guts, and that really, kind of resonates with me and my non-guts. And so I was like, okay, cool. But once I walked into Swallow Hill with you and there were all these people, it was like the adrenaline hit. And I remember I looked at you and I was like, yeah, I don't know. And you are always so great. And you were like, you got this.
Yeah, you walked in and it's big. There's a lot of people. And you said, okay, suddenly I'm even more scared.
Yeah, it hit me because I was like, I'm going to go and share, personal information about my rectum with a whole room full of sold out strangers.
And you got up there and you wrecked them.
So yeah, they started the show and wouldn't you know it, I was called up second. But
Perfect.
You and I and your wife were sitting in the very last row up in the balcony.
Yep.
And so when they said my name, everything went into slow-mo. And I remember I had to go out the door, down the stairs, and I missed the main door to get into like the downstairs part. And then I realized, oh, that was the door. And then I had to open the door, walk past all these people up to the stage, and then my knees were knocking.
And you want me to, I include in this show? Should I include in this show, when I edit it, should I put you in here telling that story?
Perhaps. It takes guts to get up here and want to spill your guts to a room full of strangers. But you're in for a treat, and this might be a lot of TMI, and I apologize ahead of time. Growing up, I had always been aware of my intuition as trusting my gut and listening to my gut no matter what. And anytime I would deviate from that and go the opposite direction of what my gut was telling me, I would get in trouble and pay the price. And never more was this evident in my life from the years 2003 to 2016. I became a homeowner at 26 years of age, downtown in a high-rise. I had a one-bedroom condo. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. It was beautiful, life was wonderful. And within 3 years, I began to have some of the most horrendous health issues that were embarrassing and shameful, and I didn't tell many people. I probably was in and out of Denver's finest hospitals 100 times. I had over 22 procedures in 20 years, and all the doctors were just looking at my guts the whole time. I had been diagnosed with 3 autoimmune diseases that no one in my family had, and kept being told I had just the most awful case of Crohn's disease doctors have ever seen. And nothing really felt right about these diagnoses. And throughout all these years of high doses of steroids and antibiotics and painkillers, I would leave the hospital and go home in my beautiful condo and rest up. And in 2016, I found out through an emergency homeowner meeting that there was an extensive water damage issue on the roof of the building. And I was on the top floor, right underneath it. So being immune compromised for all those years and all these high levels of steroids put me in the most perfect position for the mold to attack and invade my body. Only I didn't know that was what the culprit was. So all these years of doctors never getting to the root cause of why I was so sick and what was going on was frustrating. But when you're a patient, you really don't know. You just kind of go with what they're telling you because they went to school and have all the degrees and get paid a whole bunch of money. And once I learned that I had this confluence of toxic mold above me after having an environmental hygienist come out and test my condo, I immediately moved in with one of my parents, and at the time had been going through pretty awful surgeries. I'd already had my whole large intestine removed in a 10-hour procedure and spent Christmas at Denver Health, and that builds character, let me tell you. But now doctors were wanting to give me the bag a second time and make it permanent, and then they put on top of that as the frosting on my cake that they wanted to remove my rectum and sew my bum closed, which is affectionately called the Barbie butt. At that moment, I knew, because every cell in my body screamed no. I knew that all of these colorectal surgeons at one of Colorado's finest teaching institutions were giving me advice that I knew was not right. And for whatever reason, I chose to listen to my gut in that moment and decided to walk out of there and go and get a second opinion and advocate for myself. And I did exactly that. And I never had to get the Barbie butt, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm probably the only person many of my friends will ever know that's had 2 ostomies taken down and reconnected. I may be a walking human piñata and might be a biological weapon that could be used, but I'm proud of myself for listening to my gut and trusting my gut and having the guts to get up here and tell all of you this horrific stuff. But what I want to share with you all is following your gut may not always be the easiest path, or listening to your intuition may not be always the easiest, but it's always going to be the right one, and never bet against yourself. Thank you.
I think you did the safe thing. You did a smart tactic in just getting out the basics, the raw emotion of it. This woman up there looking just grandiose in the light, slender, elegant. Yeah, you did. Tattooed in all the coolest ways. And you just delivered this real quick, raw testimony.
Thank you. You know, I appreciate you saying that because I wasn't prepared and I literally pulled it out of my ass. And I just knew that if I stuck to these bullet points, that it would hopefully be around 5-ish minutes. It was 4 minutes, 30 seconds, but that I could do it. And in watching the rest of the people go, and then in watching mine, the video you took even later, I realized that I was not theatrical or performative. I was just like this, like very conversational. And then I was like, aha, you know, that's where I need to improve.
Right. Yes. And there's just something about the nerves and this, that's just where you need to know it better.
Yes, exactly. And I wasn't prepared. I thought for sure I'd have this whole...
I know. I'm sorry. I was trying not to sound like a
but you're
patriarchal
right.
prick.
You're right.
Yeah.
But what I loved about walking around with you were meeting seeing your fans and the people that were like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. I can't wait to see you tonight. And so when it was your turn to go, it killed. You were, if there's a video to attach to this episode, it is you.
Well, I ordered video of that one. I don't think it's my best story I've told there.
Okay.
I don't know. But I ordered video of it, so I hope I get it soon so I'll put it in here.
It was so good. And the fact that like you pointed up to the balcony and ended it with a beautiful tribute to your wife, that gave me like all the feels. I got a little choked up. But I was a little surprised with some of the other contestants because I didn't quite think that the theme fit their story. But maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm being...
Well, a lot of people do that. It kind of bugs me because as a guy who's done a lot of different things on stage, I always try to respect the house and the MC and the time, you know, and these people don't.
No.
You know, that first guy who got up there just piddled on for days.
About his bike?
Yeah, and his bike and his shoulder. And it's just like, no, respect that. This is important time. Like, if you want to masturbate, do that anywhere
Right.
other than the stage.
Or by a school.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And right. Exactly. There's probably 1,000 yards or something, but that's what most people are doing. You know, this kind of weird and ingratiating, moralizing masturbation. And it bugs me because I'm like, somebody didn't get up there who could have crushed it.
Exactly.
And you're up there talking about your midlife crisis, which is fine, but let's make it relevant and resonate, you know, so that we're not annoyed by your presence. No wonder you're going to Europe, because no one can tolerate you here.
That's right.
Oh God, sorry.
But, and once again, I'm going to say,
sorry.
But. No,
you're a better person.
Don't be sorry. So, out of the 10 storytellers, they did 5, took an intermission, did the last 5. And the woman that ended up winning, I'm scratching my head at, because she literally told a story about being in her car driving, needing to go number 2, and freaking out, pulling over at a dispensary that she kept calling a pot shop, and convincing these employees to let her use the bathroom, because when you work in Colorado's cannabis companies, you have to wear a badge, and the marijuana enforcement division folks at the state can always look in your cameras and see who's there. And so I highly doubt that she convinced some employees making minimum wage at a pot shop to let her use the bathroom. But that was the story that won.
Yeah, I see the elements that made it. I mean, it's something everybody can relate to.
Pooping.
Nearly crapping your pants in the car. Attractive young woman telling the story makes it, I guess, more appealing. I don't know. There's something there. But my wife never defends my performances. Even if I point to the audience like freaking Babe Ruth about to hit a home run, she's there. She appreciates it. But she's been through enough of these things. Yeah. She's seen me bail on myself enough. And even her, after that, said, actually, let me interject here and say that she and I tied.
I think you more than beat
her.
We
tied with there's 3 sets of judges, and we tied based on points, and then they had the judges vote again, and she won. I was surprised that the judges went with that, only because as far as like a story goes, I told a goddamn story.
But I wonder if one of the groups of judges who were all in the audience were her posse.
Maybe.
Because there's no way that her story competed with yours.
Well, yeah, right. Well, and back to Sarah.
Yeah.
And rarely defends my performance. She doesn't need to. It's my thing. But she, as we're walking out, she's like, we gave you a hug. We walked you to your car, even though you wanted to go by yourself and we were just following you. We walked you, and she's like, I can't believe that some Karen throws a literal shit fit and talks about it, and she wins. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there.
And it's funny because when you guys were walking to me in my car, I finally was away from audience folks where I could raise my voice, and I was like, are you kidding me? If I knew that Poop in Your Pants could win the Moth Story Slam, I would have been doing this for years.
You're the queen.
I am the queen of poop.
God damn it, this is colostomy herself.
But what was good for me was when I finished my story and got off the stage, a couple of people high-fived me as I walked back upstairs to sit next to you. And when I was hearing the scores I got, they weren't the bottom. So I was like, okay. And I knew I wasn't going to win. So at least I went and did the thing that scared me. And I didn't puss out. And I didn't call you and say, I don't feel good. But I did it. And it wasn't great. And I can do better. But I did it. And so with that, I hold my head high. But I still can't believe that she beat you. And I don't know. I just would wonder if she didn't have people in the audience.
Well, and I'm not reaching into the cellar of consolation BS here, but A, you won by doing that.
Yes.
And B, though, the important part is if that's what you want to do, you got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I think, and the thing about yours too, is if you write that out, there's probably no less than 37 places where you could start telling new chapters or go on new ways. You just took a huge chunk of a timeline and
20 years into 5 minutes.
And I think that's really cool. And just like you had sent pretty much that version to me early on, and I was like, you got the bones. You got the bones. Yeah.
And you were like, put some meat on there, and you're totally right. And that whole week where you and I were sending each other voice memos, I loved every version of the story that you told. It was just perfect. So that when you did go out and do it, and I do hope you attach it to this episode, the audience interaction with you was almost like when you're doing stand up, where you're conversating with them through your story. And I watched that and I went, damn, Jared is in his element. This is your sweet spot. Like, you are so good at this.
Yeah, I got to make it a thing. Like, I watched some clips of this kid, Matt Rife, at Red Rocks, and he is good, but I mean, that's what I was doing 20 years ago. Yeah. And the difference is he's confident in his doing it, you know, and I will never, ever knock a guy. I don't care if they're terrible for doing it. And he is good. But I remember comics back 20 years ago be like, all you do is talk to the audience. Don't you have any material? And I took that personally. I thought I was doing something wrong, you know.
No.
But that hit me, and I'm so happy that we're doing these things, because that keeps me afloat.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm just like, glug, 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 glug.
But you're so born to do all the creative stuff and the storytelling and the stand-up doing and the video making and fixing the universe and manhole. I mean, like, Iwi, you're just brilliant. But what was really cool about afterwards, when we all went out on stage and they announced the winner and everything, and audience people started coming up, this woman came and introduced herself to me, and her sister had gone through having to have a colostomy at age 12, and this was probably 40 years ago, so the technology wasn't there. Like, I can't imagine what her sister went through.
12-year-old,
she was going to summer camp, and it was just like, oh my gosh. But while this woman and I were talking, I think you said something to me, and I turned around and said something back, and she's like, you know Jared? And I was like, yeah. I was like, Jared and I have been friends since college. We had the same birthday, and we actually started a podcast. And she was like really interested in that, so I sent her a link to it. But it's just, it tickles my heart to get people's reactions to you, because it's just another validator on everything I'm always telling you about. Yes, you are the funniest person I know. Just like that guy in middle school, that kid's dad. What was his name? Mike? Jim
Marinko.
Jim Marinko.
Yeah, I was telling Jim Marinko's. I know there's a lot of you out there. This is about your dad. Yeah.
Told you just to roll with it, right?
Yeah. No, I tell you what, that Jim Marinko is my inspiration, and you might have one of those inspirations that just by existing.
Yeah.
You know, and he just lives, and you're like, oh my God, that guy gets it.
But all these people, I think, in your life are signposts telling you, like, Jared, keep just being you and showing up and just let it come out, because it's brilliant and it's funny and it's touching, and it's like that trifecta where you're laughing and crying at the same time. And that's where it's fun to be your friend in your life, in your basement, and sitting here telling you, like, just believe in yourself, because you're awesome.
One thing that you may not have thought anybody would ever say to you is there may be someone out there right now hoping they'd get to hear about your rectum, but you've talked about the Moth the whole time. I mean, is that we're not gonna go anywhere? I mean, is it too late to go somewhere now? I don't know. No. Okay. I think we just provide a bridge here, because when we last left off, that's one of my favorite phrases, is you had tried legal options. Mm-hmm. You got shafted with that. You'd moved in with your dad. You had turned your beloved almost penthouse apartment into a sarcophagus of your past life. You got, what's the name of the lawyer that has the show?
Dan Kaplis.
Dan Kaplis.
Thank you, Dan Kaplis.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. It's at KAP?
LIS.
LIS. He got the HOA to back off, right?
Yeah, because they took me and put me in foreclosure because I wouldn't pay their $10,000 special assessment. So he got it out of foreclosure, thank God.
And you're working with these doctors, branches in...
Roots and branches.
Roots and branches.
Yes, and so at this point, it's November 2017, and I'm morose with depression and sick. And again, my brain was inflamed. I'm on high levels of steroids, and I was in shock, and just every moment of every day, it was just the land of suicidal ideation, you know? Yeah. And the doctors were like, okay, we're going to bag you a second time. And I literally had to go in and do that again. And I mentioned how bedridden and sick I was, but what was a beautiful thing was that through all my health issues and over all the years, the doctors had prescribed me pain pills. And so when I stopped just trying to take them on my own, I went into withdrawal and was floored that I was addicted.
Yeah.
Physically. I'd
Oh
never
my
had a
God.
physical addiction. And so I went to my doctor at Denver Health, which is a great place.
Okay,
And
before you get
yeah,
into your
I know.
doctor, what did that feel like? What was the thing where you're like, oh my God?
I was so miserable and hated my life so much that something had to change. And I knew that it wasn't going to be the ostomy right away. So what could I start at the top? Well, pain pills were,
What are the pain pills though? Was that helping with your misery?
no,
No.
it was making it worse.
But you were taking them.
Oh, yeah.
You had to.
I had to, and I also think I was self-medicating with them. And I had a huge
Yeah.
tolerance. So what I was taking would probably kill like 5 grown men.
Yeah.
And my parents were aware, and my doctor was like, hey, there's a program and you have to pee in a cup once a week and sit with a drug counselor, but I can get you on this medication today.
So you went to that doctor and that's what he said.
That's what she said. Yeah.
And she said to be in this program.
Yeah. And so
And you were like, yeah?
yeah. Oh God, I was like, please, because I went to her, and she's still my doctor. I love her, and I was like, look, I want to take my life. I hate all this stuff happened, and she was really one of my biggest supporters through learning about the mold and everything, and with helping me fight against the colorectal surgeons. But she got me into that program that day, and it changed my life. And this December, it will be 7 years that I've been clean from opiates.
How long had you taken the opiates?
20 years.
Oh, Jesus. So this, when did you start the program? That's 2017?
In no, December of 2017.
December. Wow.
Yeah. And that was the best thing I could have done for myself, because the fog was lifted, like the cloudiness was gone, and I could start to try to put one foot in front of the other. And what I did was I enrolled in school. And
Well, okay.
yeah, I know. And I know we
That's a big benchmark.
Yeah.
I think that's where we start off on the next one. But before we get to that,
Yeah.
before we end this, how much did it take to get off those opiates? Because if somebody's addicted right now and they're watching, addicted to anything, it probably seems like the aforementioned insurmountable mountain of opportunity. What did it take? Like, you can do it, right? I mean,
when you're so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and your life is just at the bottom of the barrel, and you're looking at death or making a change, it's when you're at your lowest of low, and you're like crying out to God and the universe and anything that will listen, help me, I need help. And that's what it did. And you know what, like, what's hilarious about my journey with getting sober off of those was with these every Friday having to go meet with the drug counselor. The main population in this program are people on the street. And then there's this white girl from the suburbs that goes down to 5 Points and goes to these clinics. And I had the ostomy, and I was trying to pee in the cup for my weekly drug test. And the cup slipped out of my hand and fell into the crotch of my jeans and spilled everywhere. And I remember just standing in the bathroom like, you gotta be effing kidding me. Because I had to then go and sit in with the drug counselor, who was this man our age, reeking of piss, and talk to him about my life. And I did, and it was a half an hour. And then when I got out in my car, I pulled my pants down so they wouldn't soak into my seat, and I drove 30 minutes home. And I know that this is like, I'm bearing my soul and sharing way too much. But when you ask, like, what does it take to want to get off of that, get off of those drugs, where like your humility is just, you have nothing left. And so that's where I am. And no wonder I'm single.
well, no, but I
People
think it's
tell me
important. I mean,
that-
you waded WADED through the humiliation,
Yeah.
likely stigma. I mean,
Sure.
and is there anything attached to a medical record or any kind of record that you were addicted?
Oh, I'm sure if they went in my medical record, they could see where my doctor enrolled me in this program. And, I still take this medication. Now I'm on the lowest dose of it. But as the drug counselor said to me, Shannon, you can't dig dirt for 30 years or 20 years and then put 6 months of dirt in the hole and think you're good. Meaning,
Yeah, you didn't fill anything.
You have to. And again, my brain and what the mold did, the steroids and then the pain pills, it was like this perfect storm that set me up for suicidal ideation and misery. And that wasn't, I haven't even touched the cancer stuff or the other stuff.
But that's later.
That's later.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay. I just wanted to, and I'm not here. I'm here because you're an inspiration.
You are my inspiration.
No, but you're my inspiration, and I think you're going to be a lot of people's inspiration.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I know, because you get to the point where you're like, what do I do? I might as well die. I might as well just perish because I am a waste, and I'm wasting myself.
Yeah. And I was so broken. My soul was crushed, cracked. I was broken. And I think the other thing that is hard for me to talk about and say is like my mother, my father, and my brother were almost on like a suicide watch rotation with me. And my dad would check me in the middle of the night to make sure I was still breathing. And it's like that, what they went through, I can never forgive myself. And I have apologized profusely, but it's like, that's how bad it was, and it's like, again, how my dad used to like say, like, come on, like, look around, look at your life. I'm educated, I can drive, I can vote, I can go to school. Okay, I have a shit bag on my body and my face is screwed from the mold and I've lost everything I ever owned, but I'm still alive and I've got resources and ways to get better. So like, suck it up, right? And now I feel like this is the most like technicolor, crazy mental episode I've done, but that's the truth of it, is like when you're at your wit's end and it's not just like your drama, but it's like you're seriously done. And I had said to my family for months, like, I don't want to be here anymore, and they'd be like, what do you want me to do with that? I'd be like, I don't know, you just need to know. Mm-hmm. But like, that's so effing selfish that I was that sick, like that I was that mentally unwell. And so, I think that was.
But everybody knows what you'd been through. And they were all happy they hadn't gone through it. Yeah. And they were all just shit shock surprised that you made it through it. And to think that you were to come out the other side while you're still dealing with it, like with a mental clean bill of health, right. They all know that's not going to happen.
And that's why, like, when I've said in other episodes, like, there was a time I was really hard to be around. And this is those times. And this is also when I morphed into Boo Radley. And if you don't know who that is, read To Kill a Mockingbird. And became reclusive, which I've never been before in my life. And began this years-long, solo quest where I'm spending 90% of my time by myself, with myself, and hiding out from the world because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to look at Facebook and see what everybody else was traveling and doing, and kids and houses and money. And
that's a good point. I mean, to know her before all this and the level you were socially and the level you were, leading this movement with roller derby and all the things you did. People wanted to know what you were doing, and it all involved being social and putting yourself out there. And that's erased.
Yeah.
And your condo is erased, and your health has been decimated, and you're carrying a colostomy bag, and your sex parts are in a biological bin in some hospital. Like, right. It's okay. And not only that, holy balls.
So when the lawyers
you crawled out of it.
Right, exactly. So when Allstate was like, we don't cover mold, the lawyers were like, we represent your HOA. And then the other lawyers were like, oh, Peter Boyle's daughter and mold. And it was like, life was just like, and so you just get to the point where you're like, I'm going to fight for myself. I have to, because if I don't, I'm not going to pull out of this, and I'm not going to make it. And I'm going to be another sad statistic and ruin my parents, my brother's lives for the rest of their lives. Like, why do that? So, I did the hard thing, and you've been so supportive through all of it. But it's like, and this is where it's like, there's really nothing funny about it other than like, how bad do you want your life to change and be different? And we'll just leave it there.
What the hell? The next episode with her
will be much better.
No, that's the best. That's the best one. That is the best one. My whole body is like erect nipples right now. It just You're the story of the century, girl. You are absolutely the story of the century.
think so.
What is coming up? What is coming up? The rest of her life. And I got to be part of a fulcrum there where I got to hear what was next. And I was like, is it going to happen? Is it true? What can I do? You just don't know. We're going to cover that.
You've been there.
The next, though, my episode, I'll try not to fuck anybody and talk about it.
That's okay.
And
my book, hopefully, is going to be When a Feeler Needs a Friend. Because I do need to be
reach out, literally.
Reach out and touch someone.
Literally.
Really.